Live.
And the Muay Thai guys are back live with episode number 85. It was going to be a really, really special one, and it will be a special one regardless. However, next week we will be having on Sylvie Von Douglas, and we're going to be bringing her on to recap right after her 201st fight. So she just reached her checkpoint of 200 fights. We'll be going over what that felt like, what her next goals are, what she's looking forward to in the future, what inspires her to keep going. I think after a feat like that, to be able to consistently put out that much information as much as she does, and to fight that consistently with that amount of training, something has to keep driving her. And it just can't be the numbers anymore, because 200 plus, does 200 feel better than 100? I don't know. So we'll find out. Regardless, we are here live. Sean Fagan from Muay Thai Guy and Paul Reaper Banasiak from Muay Thai Athlete from Team Limitless. And we are going on live once again on episode 85. We're going to be recapping UFC 217. I am not a huge fan of MMA. Most of the time, I don't actively follow it. I do follow it from the perspective of listening to some podcasts like Fighter and the Kid, Joe Rogan, and that's how I get most of my information. But this one I had to tune in on. A lot of strikers, a lot of striking matches, finishes. So it was super exciting, and I think it has a bigger story to tell than just the sport of MMA. And speaking of that and the growth of it, another topic that we're going to be covering today is going to be the USMTOs that happened this weekend, the US Muay Thai Open, which is the trials. The time that we spent this weekend was the first tournament on the East Coast that USMTA came to. USMF is works with them, and that network pretty much provides a platform for people to be tracked as Muay Thai fighters, to unify us all, and to hopefully get us in the Olympics in 2024. So without further ado, we are on live episode 85. Sean just finished sharing it to different social media outlets. I'm going to be hopping on to do the same. What has been up, Sean? It was great seeing you this weekend, by the way.
Fucking A, yeah. It's always it's kind of weird seeing you in person sometimes, because I forget that we don't see each other in person here. But yeah, it's always cool. The USMTOs were fucking sick. It's always good to be in the Muay Thai scene, like be on the ground level and get to meet the fans. It's always funny because I forget that people know who we are sometimes, and everyone's always coming up to me, and it's always just a shock. I'm like, oh yeah, they watch my stuff. And so yeah, it's always great meeting fans in person. So thank you to anyone who came up and said hi. Much love goes out to you all, and thanks for stopping by the booth and just supporting the podcast, the websites, all that kind of stuff. And yeah, and then after that, I mean, I had a crazy weekend. I saw Joe Rogan live the night before, which was awesome. I mean, I got to see him do his stand-up, which I've been waiting to look to do for a while now. And then after that, had the USMTOs on Saturday, and then had the UFC fights later that night. And yeah, for real. But yeah, the atmosphere was unreal. It was so much fun just being at a live event, and the seats were like, I was worried about going to a UFC fight and not being able to like see the fight. I would have to watch it on the big screen or whatever. But it ended up being great. I mean, we had great seats, and we initially looked at the ticket prices when they first came out, and they were like $500 or something crazy like that. And we're like, no way am I paying $500 for nosebleed seats. But then the night before, we were looking at tickets, and they were as little as $100. So we're like, oh, okay, so we're gonna check this out then. It's a historic event, gonna try it out. And yeah, it was so much fun. So yeah, probably the best event that the UFC has had in a long time, and I don't want to go to another one because I don't want to like, it's like if you went to the 1980s US hockey team when they beat Russia and that was your first hockey game, you don't ever want to go to another hockey game again. Just like this UFC event was so sick. Anything that's following it up is going to be kind of like, it was okay. But yeah, man, it was so much fun. I can't complain. It was all love.
It was definitely emotional to watch. I mean, to see three champions be decrowned, and even in the beginning, I don't know what your opinion was of the Hendricks fight, but I just called that from the beginning. When
Oh
someone
man.
is at their end, when someone can't make weight, especially a guy that's a wrestler, you go through college wrestling, high school wrestling, and making weight is something you just do on automatic. So for someone that has issues with that, I think it's more issues with discipline. And Johnny Hendricks, I don't know what happened with him, but I think he has just mentally fallen off. And in that fight, you can just tell the new tier of fighters is coming up now.
Yeah, I mean, he usually fights at 170 and he had to go up to 185, and that's a big step up.
Still missed.
That's a big step up. And yeah, you could see he looked like in a lighter weight class than the guy he was fighting. I forgot his name. He was a Brazilian, but he was fucking jacked, dude. And so
Sexy guy,
yeah,
man. Good looking dude.
yeah.
Very handsome.
I know he's definitely gonna be a superstar. He's undefeated. He's really powerful. He looks the part and stuff too. Uh, and yeah, he was definitely impressive. But like you said, Johnny Hendricks just it's kind of sad because I liked watching him fight and just seeing his like discipline and lack of motivation kind of just dwindling after he won the championship. It just puts in perspective how hard it is to not only become a champion but to hold that belt and to hold that type of level of fighting and competition and training and discipline and lifestyle. And so yeah, it was a little bit of kind of saw that coming, you know. And another thing I saw coming, which I was gonna bet money on it, dude. I swear I was gonna put because there's a 4-1. Rose was gonna she was a 4-1 underdog against Joanna, and I was like, yo, I have this feeling that that Rose is just gonna pull it off. She was like super stoic. She wasn't reacting to any of Joanna's like trash talk and jabs and stuff before. And she just looked like she was comfortable. And I was like, maybe I don't think Joanna likes that. Like she's not used to people not reacting and not giving her what she wants. And Rose wasn't giving her any of that. And then I also knew that Rose was training with guys like Pat Barry and Trevor Whitman, who are great coaches, and Pat Barry was a great kickboxer as well. And so I was like, that's a good bet to make because if I bet $100 and she won, then I win $400. You know, but I didn't fucking do it. But either way, either way, it was exciting to watch that live, and it was crazy. Like I think the odds for her knocking Joanna out were something insane, and which is obvious, right? Because Joanna's a 13-time Muay Thai champion. She's undefeated UFC champion. So who would have thought, you know? But yeah, crazy. It was fucking crazy, man. I know that you have some love for Joanna, her being Polish and whatnot, and must have been a
Yeah.
little sad.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, Rose, I said to myself that if anyone's going to do it, it might be Rose and her X factor. She kind of has that X factor. But watching Rose from the beginning, because I watched her way back in the day when she was first entering the UFC, and was she on the, I believe she was on the Ultimate Fighter.
She
And
was, yeah.
yeah, so seeing her come up from there, and she seemed to be pretty 50-50. She wasn't a huge superstar. She was winning some, losing some, but every fight she looked like she got better. And you don't often see that in the UFC. You see them wanting to take those undefeated fighters and make them into superstars. And to see that steady climb that martial arts gives you, pretty much learning with every fight, getting better and better. You see a lot of guys just staying one dimensional. If they're great strikers, they stay great strikers. She's pulled off some flying arm bars and crazy moves. She has, like I said, that X factor. So for her to be able to knock out Joanna looked very tentative. She couldn't find her distance. Looked like Rose was just much longer than she was. It seemed like she kept her distance far. Joanna couldn't get in on it, and then she just sniped her from afar. And that was the end of that lead hook. That lead hook was a factor in pretty much all three championship fights. GSP rolled it. Cody Garb the rear hook. Then your Rose, keep your hands up on the side of your face, guys. That's why in Muay Thai we have those forearms to block those hooks and to keep our hands up on the outside of our face instead of having them down by our chin.
Yeah, I know, and it's funny because it's just the basics, man. And people are always looking to do like spinning attacks and all this crazy shit, but when it comes down to it, keeping your hands up and throwing tight punches, man, that's what one fights. That's what one championship level fights at Madison Square Garden at the highest level of mixed martial arts. So
Yeah,
if that
speaking
doesn't,
of
go ahead.
striking fights, we skipped over the Masvidal versus Thompson fight, and that was super exciting to watch. Masvidal came out all Muay Thai out, like teeping him to the front leg, tapping the front leg, both hands up, and it looked like original UFC, like a karate guy versus a traditional like Muay Thai. Really exciting to watch as well.
Yeah, I thought that was the interesting matchup. As a Muay Thai fighter, I could see how Masvidal must have been so frustrated fighting someone like Stephen Thompson, because it's hard to gauge your distancing, and the guy has his hands down, and he's bouncing all around and circling away from you all the fucking time, and it must be absolutely crazy because it's just you can't hit him, and his hands are down. And he looks like he's right in front of you, but you can't even like do anything to him. So yeah, you can see him getting kind of frustrated. It was a puzzle that he couldn't solve. And I'm a big Jorge Masvidal. I can't even say his name right. Masvidal. Yeah, there we go. I'm a big fan of his, and just because his style of fighting is so tough and rigid, and just fucking goes at it. He has like real fighter's heart. But yeah, it was.
He came from the original backyard fighting guy. When he was 16, he was brought in by Kimbo to just go in.
Oh, really? I didn't know that.
Yeah, he was doing those backyard fights with Kimbo Slice when he was like 16 years old. So the streets comes out in him.
That's awesome. Yeah, and then the last two fights with TJ and Cody. I'm a TJ fan. I know a lot of people don't like him, and they were cheering "fuck you, TJ" towards the end of the fight. But I've met TJ. He was real nice to me. And so I guess I'm a little biased in that sense. I'm a big fan of Dwayne Ludwig as well. And he's taught me a lot, and he was super welcoming and open to me going out there in Colorado. So all that drama with Team Alpha Male and all that, I don't know who was right or who's wrong. It kind of all doesn't matter to me. But the fact that Cody just didn't let it go, just didn't just focus on the fight and just focus on talking trash most of the time, kind of turned me off. I like Cody too, though. I mean, I've listened to him on Joe Rogan podcasts and whatnot, and so I'm a fan of both of them. But yeah, just seeing TJ and Dwayne and that whole corner and team there, and just knowing that I spent some time with them, maybe want them to win. But I thought Cody was going to win, especially in the first round. I mean, it just looked like Cody's timing off of TJ's kicks. TJ would try to throw a leg kick or a body kick, and Cody would just time that perfectly where right when TJ was about to throw the kick, he would counter with that straight or with a hook or something like that, and that made TJ a little bit more hesitant. And then I listened to the post-fight press conference with TJ answering some questions, and he was saying Dwayne Ludwig noticed that in between rounds, and they said not to set up the kicks as much and just to let them go because he was worrying about too much setting them up, and so that gave a little bit more of a more time between where Cody can counter. And so they stopped setting stuff up and just started throwing it. And that paid big dividends because then he was able to land that head kick, drop him, and then kind of wobble him a little bit. And then, I mean, TJ stood in the pocket, man. Stood in the pocket right there with Cody and landed that right hook flush. And they both took it like men, and I can always appreciate that because like they always talk shit before the fights, but as long as they're respectful after the fights, I can always appreciate that. And that's another thing about Joanna too. Like she was very respectful after the fight. She went to the press conference, answered all the tough questions, all that kind of stuff. Where people like Ronda Rousey, I fucking can't stand her because she's a fucking sore loser. She's not a fighter. She can't deal with a loss. She's not able to deal with a loss, handle it like a fucking like a human being, like a normal human being who's been in shit. She only knows how to win. And if you only know how to win, you don't know how to lose, you're not going to get very far in the sport. So yeah, I earn a lot of respect for Joanna. I know she talked a lot of shit before the fight as well, but I know that's also part of the mental warfare. And so it is what it is. But as long as they carry themselves like champions after the fight, then that's what matters most to me.
Yeah, you have to realize that it is a part of the sport. You have to sell the fight. A lot of these people are selling the fight. And the guys that are staying quiet, they're staying all humble. I've met a lot of the guys that on social media stay really humble, and I've met them in person, and a lot of times they're pieces of shit. They're not good models. They're not good role models. Whether it's there's guys in the Muay Thai community, there's guys in the MMA community, and I've met the ones that talk a lot of shit when I look on social media, and you meet they're very down to earth. You judge them on that, especially when cameras are rolling and it's in your face. You don't know how you're going to answer the questions. You don't know what's coming over you, because when people talk to you, when you're with your friends, when it's quiet, there's no cameras around, you're going to be talking different too, maybe putting you on your defensive, and then they're just putting up a 30 of not them saying anything, but maybe they riled you up and put you on the defensive side. Like,
Live again, part 3. What's up? Yeah, a little bit of a mishap the past couple of times, but we're back at it. Still learning on the fly, still figuring all this stuff out, and we are finally back. So, what's up, man? What were we talking about before we got cut off?
We were talking about the USMF, the USMTOs that came to the East Coast in Long Island, New York. Is that considered New York City?
Yeah, kind of. Yeah,
it's considered New York City. In the
like
city.
Queens. Yeah, it's kind of all Queens a little bit, you know.
Yeah, it's in the city. They're usually a West Coast tournament, so it was amazing to see it come to the East Coast, to see all the fighters coming from California, the people that I have met in person there, even online, to see those familiar faces. And it was kind of like East Coast versus West Coast kind of championship. So some of these people have already fought on the West Coast, became champions, and now that USMTOs brings it all together. So they have an entire system online where you register. You have to upload your profile. You have to upload a profile picture. They're going to keep track of all of your record, whether you win or not, and then you get a certain amount of points. And all of this is going to be considered when they are picking the U.S. team. So I think that puts us ahead of the competition once the Olympics does come into play in 2024. I say does because it's being highly considered, and I think with tournaments such as this being this organized is really going to move it forward, and I have pretty high hopes in that happening. Oh, also live scoring, pretty cool, because if you're down round 1, up on round 2, your corners and the people that are watching from the stands know who won the round. There's screens, big TV screens next to each ring 1, 2, and 3, and the people that are watching are able to see whether the person they're cheering for won the round or lost the round in live fashion. And you can see that online as well. So you can log in to the app. They have their own app, USMTO app. Fancy. And you can see live if that person is winning the round 2, round 3, and then see it later on and see them within the tournament bracket. So that's, I think, going to unify the sport. That was one of the things that they talked about for the mandatory meeting before the whole thing began, is that we're trying to unify the sport. That the biggest issue that we're having is that not all rules are unified, not all scoring is unified, and everyone is going to be now trained under the USMTA as an official. So I think this is a huge step forward, especially how organized it was. It was their first shot at it, and it was very, very organized. Expensive, but I guess you get what you pay for.
So we actually got a good live question that I figure we'll just kind of dive into as well from Ryan Diver. Do you think that live scoring will take away from some of the mystery excitement if you know who is winning? I don't know. It kind of does, because yeah, I don't know what I feel about live scoring, to be honest, because sometimes I like the idea of not knowing until after the fight of who won, but it kind of does play a factor if you're doing a live scoring of like how the fighter is going to react, knowing that they're down or knowing that they're up, but also as a fighter, knowing that like I thought I won that round, but all the judges are scoring against me. I think that would probably affect me in one way or another, but it could affect me positively because I'm like, well, fuck that. Now I got to do things differently this next round, or it could just make me like angry, like, what? How did I lose that round? I don't understand what they're watching. So it kind of goes both ways. I don't really know, to be honest. I haven't ever done live scoring before, so I don't know how I would be affected by it. But it is an interesting concept, and I think it's worth at least trying out to see whether or not it's something that should continue.
It motivates me. When I fight for Lion Fight, they have Pat Militich's scorecard up on the screen. So between rounds, I'm looking up all the time. I don't know if you if you notice or they show on the TV, but I have a few clips. I'm looking up at the score before during the fight, and then at the end of the fight where I'm pointing to it. Like when I had that fight against Brett, I was pointing to the screen. I'm like, that's actually the right scoring. I was like, that's actually the right scoring. Maybe another round, but I'll take it. I'll take it. And watching it that way, I like it because it doesn't matter. That's what the score is going to be at the end, regardless. So if you can motivate a fighter by telling them, you got one round to go, it's 1-1. You have to win this. I think, I don't know, me personally, as a fighter, that motivates me to push forward versus some people kind of coast on the third round and then they complain that they lost when the fight might have been pretty even. It depends from a third person point of view. The fight looks different when you're like this, staring each other in the eyes. And then when you're in third person, you don't see every single detail in the person's face. Like I might think I'm winning because I hit you and I saw in your face that I hurt you, that you grimaced. But the guy looking from behind your shoulder, the judge looking from behind your shoulder might not have seen that. So it depends how that round is scored. I think the live scoring makes it really exciting. I think it adds a factor to it where people are starting to cheer on. You got to win this round. You got to win this round. I think it makes it really exciting.
How do they pass on the scoring? Like how do they
It's
the rest?
computerized. So there's a person sitting right there and just logging it. And as they're logging the score 10-9, 10-9, or this person won this round, it's instantly updating onto the website and onto the screens that are next to the ring.
Whoa, we're living in the future, bruh.
We are. We're live on here. There's live scoring. Everything is live now. It's all about live.
I guess so. Well, so when it comes to the scoring and rules and regulations and that kind of stuff, you said that it kind of allows us to kind of seamlessly go into the Olympics, right? So what are the scoring credentials at the USMTO, at IFMAs, and are they the same?
USMTO works with USMF, which works with IFMA. So they're all one and the same. Some are international. USMF is on our national level here. And having those together, I believe, from what I heard, and when we had Jason Farrell on, he spoke upon this. So if you guys want to rewind it back, make sure you watch the episode with Jason Farrell after him and the U.S. team went to the IFMAs for the first time. He spoke that they really do enjoy the clinch. One thing that I did notice is that the scoring was pretty consistent, and it did align with what Muay Thai is, landing the knees to the body, showing real control in the clinch, and landing the kicks to the body. The guys that did that very well won the fights, but they were also decisively beating the other opponent up with those techniques. So it seemed like the guys that were the aggressive boxers weren't doing so well. So I think another thing is that the sport is elevating. Guys are really learning how to use their distance and control and using their weapons like their teeps and their kicks and the clinch to nullify the overly aggressive boxers.
Yeah, it makes sense. I mean, it's great to see the sport evolving because, especially in the U.S., I know it really initially when I first started in the sport, it favored the aggressive, forward-moving, boxing-oriented fighter, and it kind of worked for me because that's how I fought when I first started. But as I've evolved, it's kind of cool how the sport has evolved at the same time, with the scoring being a little bit more Muay Thai oriented as opposed to westernized aggression, forward movement, boxing, and now aggression is important, obviously, but it's controlled aggression, it's smart aggression, and it's effective. If you're moving forward and getting fucking hammered with leg kicks and body kicks and just moving forward for the sake of moving forward, it shouldn't score at all. But in the past events and past sanctioning bodies, they've scored aggressive moving fighters just because they're moving forward, they have ring control, that kind of stuff. So it's good to know that the USMTO and other sanctioning bodies and organizations are taking into consideration how the Thai score it and trying to do it that way. Because I mean, the Thais know Muay Thai better than anyone. They fucking created it, right? So we should probably be following their lead when it comes down to that. So it's good to know that, especially the youth, these USMTO tournaments are great when it comes to developing the youth, and they're getting more educated than I ever got educated when it came to fighting Muay Thai or learning the rules or the scoring or any of that kind of stuff. So yeah, in a few years down the road, and like you said, when hopefully Muay Thai goes to Olympics, the state of the U.S. Specifically and other Western countries obviously is going to be in a good position to really kind of seamlessly flow into the Olympic scoring system and fighting system without having to make too many adjustments, which is an exciting prospect.
Yeah, the guy that spoke to everyone beforehand, one of the creators of the USMTO, he touched upon that this is groundbreaking in a way, that we are at the forefront. We're right there, front line, just pretty much setting the standard for whether we're going to get in this or not. So to clean up after yourselves, to conduct yourself respectfully. I can't tell you how many times I saw fighters finish the fight and walk away together, just hands around the other fighter's shoulder and just walking back to the stands, to their families or to their coaches, to just sit down next to each other, have their arms around each other and recollect. It was really beautiful. I mean, I was saying some things to get inside Will's head, one of my fighters. He lost his last few Muay Thai fights. So I was saying some rather aggressive things from the corner, and I was trying to get in his opponent's head from the corner. It's something that Mark did to me, so I'm starting to utilize it myself. And, when Will kicked, I said, he doesn't like that. He doesn't know how to check the kicks. You gotta keep hitting him. It doesn't matter. Kick through his leg. His check is not strong enough. His leg is not gonna hold up. It's not gonna hold. And I kept yelling it. I kept yelling different things, that he doesn't know how to do this. He wasn't taught to do this, etc. And after we got up and the fight was over, Will ended up winning the fight. He ended up winning the title in the finals. The coach came up to me, shook my hand, said, I love what you do. I'm a huge fan of what you do. It was an honor to fight against you guys. Love what you're doing for the sport. Continue to do that. All the guys from our gym are listening in on the podcast, watching the episodes, things like that. So, I appreciate that. And there's nothing but love from me there either. So, I snapped from that coaching mode back to, bringing it back to the ground, centering ourselves and just being respectful. So, and then we sat in the stands and had a great conversation just about what they're doing in New Hampshire, how they're providing a source for the youth. I mean, it's hard enough in Connecticut to help Muay Thai grow. There's not that many gyms. So New Hampshire, I'm sure it's even more difficult, and they're looking into underprivileged youth and providing them with an outlet. And I think that's something that's going to help our sport grow. I mean, that's what boxing has done for a lot of these kids. So if Muay Thai can do it as well, it'll just be another option for them.
Tiago's actually listening in right now, watching in live, one of the organizers of the USMTOs. And like we were saying, they do such a great job. Thanks for having us there. And thanks for organizing this type of event because we need more of these types of events, especially for the youth, in order to continue growing the sport and take it the direction that it needs to go in order for it to get more recognition, get more people involved in the sport and change the lives of people ultimately, because when it comes down to it, Muay Thai and martial arts is a tool that we use for life, and it's the best way for us to at least for me to unleash my potential in other aspects as well. Because without Muay Thai, I want to have as much discipline, I want to have as much focus, I want to have as much drive, and so the fact that we're teaching these kids and these kids are learning how to conduct themselves in a intense environment that is a Muay Thai tournament, that's gonna mature them so quickly. You know what I mean? Because once you fight, everything else kind of tones down a little bit. Once I had my first fight, everything else around me kind of became a little bit more sedative, became a little bit more calm, and it just put a different perspective on things as well. So yeah, and just remember, Tiago is mentioning it right now. Registration for the USMTO West Championships will be opening very soon. So if you want to get in on those tournaments, make sure you check out the USMTO website because with all the scoring and everything, with the records that you were saying,
It's the
yeah,
future.
it's the future. It's crazy. It's so crazy. But Paul, I know in our outline for the podcast, you're mentioning how else can we grow the sport, and I'm curious, man. Do you have any input on what we can continue doing to grow this beautiful martial art that we call Muay Thai?
Yeah, I my vision was exactly what just happened. It was unifying this. I think it's really hard for people to invest into something that's not consistent. So if scoring is not consistent, if the rules are not consistent, it's a different sport if you change the rules. Kickboxing, Muay Thai are not the same sport. They are very, very different. If you just watch the clinch highlights I just put up on one of my fan pages and on my Instagram, it's a completely different game. It's a completely different sport. So we do have to unify. And I think with that, there will come more sponsors. There will come more people that see the consistency, the sport growing, to see others wanting to see it. And with that, I think the next step is just getting more televised shows and competition. I think it's like with anything in life. When someone is offering you, let's say, $2,000, when there's a guy next door offering you $2,500 for the same product, obviously you can go to the guy that's offering 2,000 and say, well, listen, this person feels like I'm worth more than that. But I think the ranges are much different than that. So whether it's when it's fighters and how they're being treated, one promotion will treat you really well. The other promotion, it's pretty much, you're a chew toy in a way. So for people to really be able to have great opportunities, there has to be competition. So there has to be high level promotions putting on shows. And I think it's starting to happen. There's some pro shows coming up on the West Coast, but they have to compete with each other. They have to compete with each other for airtime, and that'll bring up fighters that they need to keep. I really think that Bellator has done that for UFC, and they've had to step up their game, look at different methods of how they can improve, how they can treat the fighters better. I think their pay has definitely increased, even the minimum. I know some of the guys that fight for UFC, and over the past, let's say, 5 years, the minimum pay has gone up. And, they're having some issues right now, but with this past weekend's pay-per-view, I think they're going to start to go forward. Now, that's something that Damian Trainer, a lot of the guys when I was in England were talking about. They're just getting people with money to invest. And I think that's great, but we need to have a foundation. We need to cover the fundamentals first and lay the groundwork before anyone is going to invest, because then that's the only way to get a return on that investment, which is what an investor is looking for.
Yeah, like you said, it's going to be a grassroots movement at first. And once you get the grassroots building and you get that foundation set, then it's easier to get the investors in and get them interested. Be like, yo, this is going to be a money making venture. So get in on it. The system's already in place. It's just a matter of having the money to funnel through it and to really build it from there. So yeah, I totally agree with you. And I think like I love what Lionfi is doing. I love what Glory is doing and all that kind of stuff. It's just a matter of with Lion Fight. I think they could do a little bit of a better job with social media. I think that the Access TV is a little limited with the reach that it can get to. Although a lot of people do watch it and are able to find the stream when it does come on, it's still a little bit more difficult. You know, where when UFC or Glory is on, it's on mainstream television. You know, it's on ESPN or Spike or whatever or Fox or whatever it may be. But that's when it comes down to money. You know, because it's you got to pay to get on those primetime television slots to get primetime TV. So it's a little bit hard to work that out. So Lion Fights definitely set the standard, and it's definitely a good standard. But we always have to keep evolving, always have to keep growing, and it's great to see the sport grow, man. I know when I first started Muay Thai, it wasn't on TV. None of that shit was on TV. And the fact that it's on TV, people know what Muay Thai is. When I say I'm a Muay Thai fighter, they're like, oh, yeah, I know Muay Thai. That's cool, you know, because before you'd have to explain it. And sometimes you still do, don't get me wrong. But yeah, it's definitely taken its own course, and you see it's growing, and it's a beautiful, beautiful thing.
Yeah, it's been night and day in the past 5 years. I was I was at Trader Joe's last night, and I was
You hippie.
wearing, yeah, I had my jacket, my Team USA jacket. This is the only place I go shopping for groceries is Trader Joe's. Man, this is gonna sound like an ad. They have organic stuff for the same price as conventional in different stores like Stop and Shop. It's cheaper there to get organic than normal in a conventional store. So
That's good to know.
that's why I love it. And because they brand their own stuff so they can keep the cost down. Everything is Trader Joe's brand for the most part. They only bring in limited outsources. So just kind of wrapping this whole thing up, it was an amazing time at the USMTOs. I think the community is the best part of it all, to be able to see all the familiar faces, to come with your team. I think there is no better team activity than spending a weekend together in a hotel in a high pressure situation where you're helping each other out emotionally, physically training together, and then being there for each other after a huge win or a big loss. So I think if you're a coach, this is something you want to do for your fighters. If you want your team to have a stronger bond, a better team atmosphere, and then it is also something that will move this sport forward. So we need to invest into this. We need to invest in pushing this sport forward. We're at the forefront of this. The momentum is there. So we just have to keep that momentum moving forward and not stop. Like you said, we just have to keep evolving.
Beautiful. Yeah. And make sure you guys keep checking out the USMTO if you're in the US, or even if you can fly to the US to participate in that. Definitely do what you can. And yeah, go to the USMTO website, check that out. And maybe we'll get Tiago on the podcast sometime. So this way we could talk about the tournament, all the behind the scenes and the purpose behind it, because he's a wealth of knowledge when it comes to setting up this tournament and just getting it all organized. And him and his business partner Brandon do a great job. Really good guys to work with and everything too. And it's just everything seems to be very streamlined, very organized, and that's always good to have those type of people up at the forefront running these types of events. So, yeah. Great podcast, man. Really enjoyed doing it. We're going to be going into a live Q&A session after we cut this off with the Facebook audience. And remember that next week, we're going to be chatting with Sylvie Von Douglas E2, who just had her 200th fight. That's right, her fucking 200th fight in Thailand on her birthday, nonetheless. A card chuck fight, which is just rope fist. And we're going to be chatting about her, or chatting with her about her whole career and everything that's going on, because she's doing it, man. She's fucking living the Muay Thai life. She really is eating, sleeping, and breathing it. So it'd be really great to chat with her. We're going to do that 1 p.m. Eastern time, Monday, November 13th. So tune in then. And Paul, anything to wrap up, brother?
As always, you guys know where to head over, MuayThaiAthlete.com. We are growing the YouTube channel. The clips from here are going to be going up on YouTube. They're going up on Instagram at Muay Thai Athlete, at the Muay Thai Guy.
We're everywhere.
We're going to be everywhere. Little clips from this, just little snippets of information or anything that can maybe inspire somebody else, or just something to help promote the podcast so we can move it forward, to be able to spread the knowledge and have more guests on, and for you guys to chime in, to be able to comment, to be able to ask questions, and for us to interact together. So make sure you subscribe on all those channels. We're going to be in Costa Rica from the 7th to the 14th. Sean and I will be pushing that. And from then on in, what else do you have going on?
Training camps in Thailand. You know where it's at, thailandtrainingcamp.com. The website redesign is coming out soon, so keep your eye out for that. Got new shorts, new gloves, shin guards, all this shit coming out. So keep checking out nakmuaynation.com. But yeah, I don't want to bore you too much with that stuff. So yeah, let's wrap up here. Get to the Q&A with the fans. But thank you all for listening to the podcast. Make sure to like, share, and tell your friends and family, your training partners and coaches all about us. Leave a review if you get a chance. We always appreciate the support. And yeah, much love goes out to you and the Muay Thai community. And thanks for tuning in.
Boom.
Boom. Now we're just on Facebook, yo. We're just with the Facebook Live people.
No,
and
we're
Tiago
just
wanted to
chilling.
call in. Thank you, Tiago. I don't know how to have people call in right now. We're still working out the kinks with this new application. But yeah, we'd love to get you on the podcast to talk a little bit more in depth. So yeah, we'll have to set that up sometime in the future. So
All right, so we should do it 2 weeks from now. So for those interested in finding out more about becoming an Olympian or something, well, we'll hopefully have Tiago on maybe 2 weeks from now. So since we have Sylvie coming on next week, we'll try to shoot for that 2 weeks from now.
beautiful. And then yeah. What we got? We got Doug Mallard saying that we should come down to do seminars in Central Texas, and we'd love to, man. We're busy people though, so it's hard to manage all this kind of stuff. But yeah,
we have talked about doing
world tour,
U.S. tour. Yeah, doing a U.S. tour of seminars. Yeah, if you guys are ever interested, especially locally, for Sean and I to drive out to teach some seminars, you can always reach out to us on social media or on our email list. Yeah, world tour, that would be great. I mean, that's what I try to start in England, and then I had a few more inquiries to Italy and Greece, and hopefully I'll be able to make that happen.
Boom. And yeah, we got some exciting stuff coming out with all of our projects. Me and Paul are going to be doing some videos in the near future too. Paul's got some exciting announcements working on in the background too that I know he's probably antsy to complete and actually get set up. But we'll have to wait and see for that. And yeah, and then all the stuff that we have going on behind the scenes is going to help with the sport. Ideally, we're trying to help grow the sport in our own way as well, just like the USMTO is doing their own thing. And yeah, just everything that we're doing right now is for the love of Muay Thai. So if you ever have any topics or suggestions for what you want us to cover and talk about, please feel free to reach out to us. We're easygoing guys. The thing is that it's hard. Sometimes it's hard to see all the messages I get because it's getting a little overwhelming now. So yeah, just feel free to do it though, and I'll do my best to get back to you as soon as possible. And yeah, next week we're going to be doing Sylvie, like we said, and then hopefully the week after that with Tiago. And we're also going to have a topic about how to overcome fear and breathing techniques to help just with lowering your heart rate, clearing your mind, clarity, all that kind of stuff. And I'm really into that kind of stuff too. So yeah, if you have any topics that you want us to cover, any struggle that you're going through with your training, with your fight career, with weight loss, with nutrition, whatever it may be, just reach out to us and we'll do our best to help you out in one way or another. But if you guys got no questions, we're about to wrap up here. So we'll give you like another minute or two and then probably call it quits from here. We got 130 people watching. All you creepers, and no one's commenting. What's going on?
That's what I call these people. You know, sometimes even on Instagram, there'll be 6 people and we're all having a conversation essentially. So I'll be talking, we're all having a conversation, and then I'll have days where there'll be a few dozen people. On Facebook, there might be 100 plus, but on Instagram, it seems like people jump in and out a lot more. And there'll be a few dozen. It'll be like 10 times the amount, and then they just stay like real quiet, just creeping from the sidelines. It's like the people that just don't have a profile picture. I meet these people in person, and I give them a look because shit pisses me off. I ask them, "You have a Facebook?" Yeah, but I don't really like use it. So, and then you find out that they have a Facebook, but the only thing that they do with it is just look at other people's stuff. They have it to look at other people's stuff, but they don't want to put their own stuff out there. It's a red flag. If a woman does that, it's a red flag.
If a man does that, that's a red flag. If anyone does that shit, it's a red flag. Ryan Diver's got a question though. Can you push the sport forward while keeping the history not getting lost? Yeah, man, definitely. And I think it's a matter of I think it's a combination of things. I think the promoters need to do a good job at finding the balance between like casual fans and hardcore fans. Like Lion Fight, they took out the Y crew, but they still have a lot of aspects of Muay Thai in there. I feel like it's weird not fighting with Y crew music. It's like the Sarama, it's called. It's just a little strange and eerie without any music going on in the background. But yeah, I think if the fighters keep conducting themselves in professional manners, and we're not getting into like the MMA scene where we're all just talking shit and trying to build the fights because that's what people do. I think there is an importance to like building the fight up, but I still think you have to stay true to yourself because that's what Muay Thai really, it's all about respect and tradition and that kind of stuff too, you know? So it is a fine balance. And I think we can push the sport forward because there's enough people who think along the same way that we do in regards to like, you don't have to talk shit to be a good fighter. You don't have to be disrespectful to sell a fight, you know, because you can just be you and sell a fight as long as you're a good fighter. And I think skill and technique and respect should trump all when it comes down to it.
Yeah, and movies like A Prayer Before Dawn maybe can educate people a little bit more. Did you see the commercial for that? I'm so amped up.
Yeah, man, it should be fun.
Amped. Is it going to be in the actual movie theaters or is it one of those like whatever festival?
Yeah, I don't know. It's probably an independent movie, so I might be able. It might just be not in theaters. Hopefully on Netflix and shit. I don't fucking know.
Hopefully Netflix had the documentary about the prison fights. Or no, I'm sorry, that wasn't on Netflix. That was on Showtime. Watching that, man, that
gives you goosebumps, man.
Gives you goosebumps because it's real. It's real. It's not it seems like it's a movie. And it's this one is going to be formatted as one, but that shit really happens. This movie is prison fights, essentially.
Yeah, I know, and it's based off a real fighter who actually had to go through this and figure it all out. So yeah, fucking nuts, man. But yeah, we're gonna wrap up now.
Him on. Yeah, I can reach out to Cody actually because he talks to me sometimes. Maybe we should have Cody on as well. Cody Moberly from Prison Fights.
Oh, that's not a bad idea. Not a bad idea. I know. Yeah, I've seen Cody fight a couple times. But yeah, thank you all for watching. Thanks for tuning in. As always, we'll always be doing these on either Sunday or Monday. It's going to be next Monday at 1 p.m. Eastern time. We'll be interviewing Sylvie Von Douglas E2 from Thailand about her 200th fight. And then the following week, we're going to try to get our buddy Tiago Azaredo on this, the head of the USMTO organization. And yeah, if you have anyone you want us to reach out to and try to get on the podcast, let us know and we'll do our best. We have some good networking connections, I would say. So we'll try to do our best.
All right. Beautiful guys. It's been lovely chatting with you all. Hope you guys all enjoyed the podcast. Have a beautiful weekend.